So, welcome to this episode of Rounders Reconnect, and I am really excited about this one. I've read a lot about our guest on Rounders Reconnect today and all the fabulous work she's been doing, increasing participation, not just with players, but with umpires, with coaches and volunteers. So, I'd like to welcome Janet Roundell.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So, Janet, let's get straight to it. You're Burnley born and bred. Tell us what your first memories of being involved in Rounders, and sort of how old were you, and what got you excited about it?
Yeah, so I was a pupil at Burnley Wood Primary School in the town, and that's my first memories of playing Rounders. I played Rounders for the junior school. Loved it. Me and my sister played in the same team. She's a year older than me, but we ended up in the same team. I don't think there was enough playing at the time that they put everybody together. So yeah, absolutely loved that. Then went on to senior school, Townley High School, and then played for the full 5 years that I was at the school in the Rounders team. Playing in festivals against other teams from the town and other teams from across the county. And again, loved it. And it's just so disappointing when you leave school and that's it, it's gone.
Yeah, because it was really active in schools, wasn't it? I remember as a kid doing loads of Rounders in secondary in particular, going all over.
Yeah. And I just remember it always seemed to be sunny back then. A bit different nowadays, but those are my memories on Townley playing fields in the sunshine playing Rounders. So now we're back at Townley playing fields, but it's not particularly as sunny as I remember. Yeah.
So how did you sort of get involved with what you're doing now then?
So it came about. So my background in my career, I worked for Burnley Borough Council as a player worker and a community player worker, working in community sports and community player buildings. And we played Rounders in those sessions. They were kind of like after school sessions, from 4 o'clock till 8 o'clock, where we had recreation grounds where we'd set up a game of Rounders for all the kids that came. So I'd always played, and that was one of the more popular games in after school clubs as well. But then we had kind of a restructure, and our player development unit from Burnley Borough Council went into the sports development unit and became the sport and player development unit. And my sort of work, just focusing on after school clubs, then sort of started including a little bit of sports development work. And in 2013, we lost our sports development officer. It was made redundant. So technically we had a sport and play development unit without a sports development officer, but we had some outstanding projects that were still to be delivered. And one of them was a partnership with Rounders England that we'd agreed to take on. Initially, it was a 3-year partnership where Rounders England funded us, I think to the tune of around about £3,000 a year, just to reintroduce Rounders to the adult community, because there was no participation, there was no provision for that in Burnley, and probably in a lot of sort of the local smaller towns and parishes around Burnley. There was no adult provision for Rounders. Further down the road in Bury, they have a flatback league, Bury and Bolton, and it's a massive league. There's sort of over 100 odd teams playing across those two towns and in between. But once you got sort of to the borders of Bury, there was nothing, no provision at all. So that was tasked to me. I was asked by my manager at the time, would I fancy taking on this project? And it was my very first ever sports development project, really, coming from a player background. But because it was Rounders, it was a no-brainer for me. I said, absolutely, I'd love to have a go at that. And that's where it started, 2013. So we set up some what we call just play sessions, which was just an informal rock up and have a game around us and then go on. You didn't have to think about anything else other than just turning up and taking part. And our first session, I think we had 17 women, and 3 or 4 of their children had come along. The week after, the numbers had doubled. and the number of children had doubled. So we'd made the decision to bring a play leader along and set up a pitch for the children to play on, while the mums and older sisters and grandmas, in some cases, all played on the adult pitch. And we ran that for an 8-week period. And on our last week, I think we'd something like 76 women attending. So we'd increased the number of Rounders pitches, brought in more umpires, which was usually the staff from Burnley Leisure's sport and play development unit, because we'd no umpires in town because we didn't have a provision for Rounders at that time. So it was our coaches that came in and helped assist us with that. And it grew from there. Once the 8-week programme had finished, they didn't want it to stop. But we'd lost the light because we were coming to the end of September at the time. So we made that decision that, well, if you can all form yourself into small 6-a-side teams, we'll take it indoors. And that's what we did. We took a little indoor league at St. Peter's Leisure Centre in Burnley. And we've been running an indoor league there now since 2013 because it's just been that popular. We have to limit the number of teams that can come because we only have a short spell of time in there, 2-hour block where we can play the games on a Wednesday evening. So, but it's always full. I think we're in a day of putting out registrations now open. It fills up to the point where we have to extend and do another night. So now we do another night at a different venue. And again, that's full as well. So, and we've been doing that now for the last 10 years, doing indoor Rounders. And from that led to us doing our very first summer in 2014. And within, again, 2 weeks of putting out the registration for teams to come together and form themselves into a team to join the league, we had 16 teams from the town signed up to join our very first summer league.
Wow, that's a huge amount of teams to start
off
with, isn't it?
For one little town. I mean, putting it into context, there's a great Rounders community across in West Yorkshire. But so they run county, it's a county-wide sort of thing. So there's lots of little towns in West Yorkshire that are now popping up with umpteen Rounders teams in that league. But we're all focused in one little town. And so all these teams are coming from one sort of small town in comparison to, to sizes of other counties. And, particularly when you look at Bury and Bolton and the teams that have got playing. So, yeah, so we're quite proud of that. Year 2 in our summer leagues, again, we were over subscribed, so we introduced a second night. So then we had 12 teams sign up to that. So then we'd gone from 16 to 28 teams. And we kind of sustained that number for a number of years. A couple of teams dropped out, and then a couple of teams kind of like merged when some players dropped out. And then COVID hit, and that was, it was quite a shuddering halt to what was a really good sort of movement in the community for Rounders. We did lose some players to not coming back after COVID. We're not lost them; they're still here with us, thankfully. We lost them to the game, and I think there was some of our older players that sort of lost a little bit of confidence. But when we reintroduced Rounders after COVID, we came back with all the governing body guidelines about cleaning balls, cleaning posts after so many balls, and we managed to get a short 7-a-side league running at the back end of the summer. And then obviously the government put restrictions again on what sports could be played, and unfortunately Rounders wasn't one of those. So we had to sort of stop again. And during that time, we have a Facebook group. It's a private group. We did a lot of work over that period, sort of keeping our community engaged. We were running quizzes, talent competitions, pumpkin carving, all sorts of things that we had running. Excuse me. So that's how we managed to keep in contact with our community. And we also did a step challenge. So, one of the things we could do in COVID was go for walks.
Yeah.
So we encouraged our players to go out, but record the number of steps that they're actually doing while they were out. And then we introduced some fun bits. So we're saying when you go out, you need to now take a picture of a bridge and take a picture of a sheep or something, and then post that back on with the number of steps you've done. So that was really a popular challenge that we ran. And leading on from that, when all the restrictions were lifted, quite a lot of the women that had been out doing these step challenges. Sorry. Sorry, it's my cruise bug.
Yeah.
So I've just come back from my cruise.
Do you need to get some water?
I will do shortly, yeah. We had the ladies that have been on the step challenge. We then did a charity fundraising walk up Mount Snowdon with a group of 12 of these ladies who all went out and raised money. And the money that they raised went to support one of Burnley Leisure and Culture's charitable programs, which was to provide free swimming for children, free swimming lessons, because we thought that as it's a vital life-saving skill for children, and for us ladies to just go out and have a walk and have a bit of fun while raising money for such a valuable sort of worthwhile thing was people couldn't wait to get on it. And following on from that, they then decided they wanted to do it again, and then we took on the challenge of Ben Nevis with pretty much the same group, and again raising much more money for providing free swimming lessons for children in Burnley. So it's been good. We've always tried to have that community feel, because we are quite a tight-knit community in Burnley. We're quite proud of where we live and what we do in this town. So we've done that virtually for the last 10 years. We've run raffles at our Rounders Leagues and our Rounders sessions, and we've raised probably about £30,000 over the last 10 years for lots of different local charities. Pendle Dogs in Need, Arley's Heroes, just to name a few. So we're quite proud of what we've done, and that's all stemmed from just meeting up and having a game of Rounders 10 years ago. So
that's
been
amazing,
brilliant.
isn't it? And how it can bring. What I love about it is, and what can quite often happen is, you get your community coming together just for one love. I just want a game of Rounders, and then it goes into other things like your fundraising and no doubt friendship groups and everything that you did through COVID, and that real community feel.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really nice. Like I said, because we'd set up this Facebook group, I've kind of gained lots and lots more friends who were all based around the Rounders project on Facebook, and it's really nice to see the friends' anniversaries popping up, how they do on Facebook, and virtually every single picture that they're posting about, oh my God, we've been friends for 9-10 years. It seems like they're all them in their Rounders kits on the Rounders pitches ready to go and play. So that's really nice to see that, Rounders has had such an impact on so many people in Burnley. It's something that we're quite proud of.
And 2015-16 was quite an important year for you around awards and various other things, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we won the local sports awards, Community Club of the Year, and that was for the work that we'd done with the women. And then in 2016, we went on to set a world record, an official Guinness World Record.
Oh, wow.
We had the most participants in a Rounders match. We set it at the time. I think it was 90 odd that had got the record. I'm not quite sure, but we set it at 118 participants played in this one big match. We tied it in with the Sports Relief Mile. So the Sports Relief Mile took place, and then straight after that, this game around us happened where we had got people on top of minibuses filming it, and because they're quite strict on what they actually want. It's got to be a continuous filming to show that nobody's left the pitch and things. So yeah, quite a lot of work went into that. But when we won the sports awards, it was announced on that night that we were officially world record holders.
Oh,
so it was a great night. Yeah.
Oh, fabulous! Because you also were in an advert, weren't you? One of your
not
members.
Me. Yeah, one of ours. So we had again a call from Rounders England who have been brilliant. We've worked so well with them over the first 3 years. Where they funded us, and the funding reduced each year, and then Rounders England sort of had to change their targets of what they were doing to deliver, and rather than about growing participation, it was about the development then. But we still continued because we valued the relationship that we had with the national governing body from us here in Burnley, and particularly Burnley Leisure and Culture, who I work for, you know, they were so keen to work with the national governing body and keep that relationship going, that we've continued to do that over the last 7 years after the funding had finished. And that's resulted in me taking on roles within Rounders England. One of our players was actually became a board member at Rounders England, Joanne Baldwin. So she was actually picked for a This Girl Can campaign, which was Left School, Never Left Games. And it featured Rounders, which was brilliant for Rounders and brilliant for Burnley and brilliant for Jo. And her face went up on posters all over the UK. And then that was another competition we ran, hashtag Where's Boulders. So anybody who saw one of the posters of Joanne with a Rounders bat and the This Girl Can had to take a selfie with it and send it onto the group. And there were some weird and wonderful places where she popped up. In particular, one of the funniest things was one of our ladies' partners had gone to the toilet at St Mary's Stadium in Southampton to go and relieve himself, to find that he was being watched by Joanne Baldwin. And so he actually took a picture and hashtagged where I found Boulders in the toilets at St Mary's. But she appeared everywhere. You know, she was on all the massive TV screens at Euston Station. She was on the massive screens on a Little Mix concert. You know, she appeared everywhere on that, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant for Rounders, brilliant for us as a project. That, you know, one of our players was the face of Rounders for that year, and following on from that, we was asked if anybody who could catch. That's all we were asked for. Anybody who can catch want to become part of a Lucozade advert. So one of the girls that worked with us at Burnley Leisure, called Devon Burnell, they were tasked with filming themselves with a rehearsal video to send in to Lucozade, and she was selected. It was an hilarious video of, she couldn't catch it all. Actually, there's take one, take two of trying to catch a Lucozade bottle across the office. But it was hilarious when we actually saw the video. It was the Find Your Flow video, where Lucozade gives you these extra powers, and sort of Devon featured right at the very end of the video, where she was sort of typing in an office and somebody from behind her launched a Lucozade bottle at her, and without sort of turning around or looking, she just popped her hand up and caught it. So that's Devon's claim to fame, and that appeared on our sports awards as well, you know, as a little ditty at the end of one of our season videos. So it was really good. And we had quite a few women, inspirational women as well, women who'd left sport because of injuries or because of having children and focusing more on the children's sort of extracurricular activities. One lady in particular, Charlotte Hardiman, who plays in our leagues, has done for 10 years. She had a really bad back injury, wasn't confident of coming back to sport, but did. And found that Rounders was a great way to be able to get that exercise and get back into a team sport, which she'd loved doing previously before her injury. And being able to be a role model for her sons, who are now or at the time were getting into competitive sport. And they used to come down and watch mum, you know, playing in a team, a really successful team, winning trophies and players of the year. So it was a really great, you know, good news story for Charlotte, that she was able to do that, come back from an injury, get back into team sport, which is what she'd missed, and again be a role model for her children. So that was, and again, it's Rounders that's enabled that. So that's brilliant.
I love that. I love the fact of what sport and what Rounders have done for so many people, because that's
Absolutely.
what it can't it? It's like particularly around mental health and well-being, and the COVID stuff you said was, you know, they all knew each other, so they were all able to keep that community going. You didn't just stop at playing though, did you? In order to, you've done a great job when I was sort of reading about this before around the sustainability of it, and around making sure that it keeps going, because one thing is getting funding, isn't it? And quite often you get funding, and when it stops, an activity just stops.
Yeah.
But you didn't stop there, did you? You did
No,
around developing the
no.
workforce and
Yeah. So like I said, from my work with Burnley Leisure running the Rounders project, what we did is we set up Burnley Rounders Club. So we got some of the sort of, the main volunteers that had sort of surfaced, and they naturally surfaced, people who want to do things. Like Joe Baldwin was the very first one that said, if you need any help, just give me a shout, this is brilliant. And and we had other people like Joe then step forward, in particular Nick Edge, who I run the project with now. I mean, she's been there from the very first session. She's probably umpired twice as many games as I have, so she's got far more of the Rounders bug than I have, in that respect. But without people like Nick and Joe, we just absolutely wouldn't have been able to sustain it. So we'd set up Burnley Rounders Club, and Joe's still our chair at Burnley Rounders Club, and Nick's on the committee there. I sit on the committee, and then we've got probably 4 or 5 others that sit now on that committee. And we've been lucky enough, because of where I work, we've got people who are experienced at fundraising, funding bid writing. So we've been able to get Sport England funding, and This Girl Can funding, and Together Fund we've just recently had. So it's enabled us to have the confidence, because we've been able to pay for it, and that's really been the stumbling block. We've tried to make it as inclusive as we possibly can, and take away that barrier of financial burden that often sort of impacts on people's participation in sport. So with getting that funding, we were able to pay for level 1 umpires and level 2 umpires at the time. We put people on coaching awards so that they could go out then and deliver these Just Play sessions that we'd started with, because our focus had switched then to the leagues, because that's where we were getting, most of the players were able to get together on one night, and that's what they love. They play it all on one night. It's not spread across. So the 16 teams will all rock up on a Wednesday evening. And then again, the same on a Monday evening. Our numbers, like I say, have dropped since COVID, but that's what it was like at the start. So I think at the last count, we'd actually trained, or had trained, 92 people from the town to either be coaches or umpires. I myself and Nick and Devon, who was in the Lucas Ed advert, we went on to become assessors for Rounders England and tutors, so we could then deliver the courses, which again made it more accessible, because we could apply for the funding, ask Rounders England to get something set up in town, so the barrier for transports was taken away then, and we could get all our people on to a course in their town that didn't cost them anything apart from investing their time getting qualified. And from that, they now go on and umpire in our leagues, and they get a volunteer expenses for doing that as well. So it's great. They can rock up, play Rounders, pay the subs. Then the game after they'll umpire, so they can come out for a night that takes like 2.5 hours. The kids come on the park next to the pitches, so the kids are out in the fresh air within sight of mum. They can play the game around us and then umpire the next game, and they can walk away with still having £10 in the pocket from what they started with. So it's been a really good sort of sustainability model that we can keep the leagues running. I mean, having said that, of the 92 people who got qualified, we don't have 92 people stepping up to umpire every week now.
No, you've got to go above and beyond, haven't it?
That's it, yeah. And once somebody challenges a decision and they don't like that, and then they think, well, I'm not giving me time up to be shouted at. So we do have a zero tolerance in our league, and we do stamp down on that, because we have to protect those people, because without them we don't get to play, do we? So
no,
that's the message we give. But in all, we've got a really great group of teams that play in our league. It's nice to see on a Wednesday night and a Monday night, once they've played the games, they'll all go onto the group and they'll pop a picture of the team that they've played, thank their umpires and congratulate or say unlucky to the team that they've just played, and then they can't wait to get going again the week after. So it is a real nice community feel.
And it's still indoor and outdoors you do, isn't it?
Yeah. We generally,
so it's right around the year.
Yeah, we generally do our Winter League starts in October and usually runs till the end of February. And then we'll have March off, hopefully. And then sort of back end of April, well, it's been later this year because of the rain, we'll start our summer leagues, and that usually takes us up to August or mid-August. And then again, we'll have a break, and then we'll start again in October. But when we have the breaks, we have the just play sessions for those that don't want to stop. There's still a provision there if they still want to play.
That's brilliant, isn't it? That they can still keep in touch, and it's like a support mechanism as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I know Joe coined it. The Rounders England did a video, this CAN video, when the campaign was running. And one of the things that I remember Joe saying is that, you know, they've reconnected with friends that they used to have in school that they'd not seen since school, that they're now friends again. They go on shopping trips, they go to Christmas markets, holidays, and you can see it all across all the Facebooks that what they're off doing with one of their Rounders friends that are now sort of embedded into their best friend group. So it's really good to see.
Oh, that's lovely. It's phenomenal work. And you're now, am I right in thinking you're now working in Rounders?
Yes, yeah, I do a bit of work for Rounders England. Originally, I was sort of appointed as the talent coordinator, which kind of just was going round to the festivals that they run across the summer. They started developing these festivals to try and sort of end up with national champions. And Rachel at Rounders England has done a fantastic job of getting these festivals sort of running, and they're like clockwork now. So kind of my role on that sort of waned a little bit because the need for me to be, well, I go there because I think I'm the one that's got the big gob, and I'll go on a microphone without anyone pushing me. You know, can't get me off when karaoke's on. But that's what I tend to do, is just sort of coordinate the day. I'd get on the microphone, tell people who's umpiring, what pitches they're on, all that sort of thing. And then just be there on hand for collecting results and making sure that things are running smoothly on the day. But like I say, Rachel's pretty much got all that sort of in hand now. So we just take turns in making sure that we all attend so many festivals because they need so many staff on each one. But my role's kind of slightly developed a little bit. One of the previous developmental director, Rianne, had asked just before she left if I'd take more of a role on the talent hub and the talent pathway. So it's kind of like a regionalised talent hubs where anybody in the Rounders community that's spotted by any of our umpires or coaches can be handed a golden ticket, and that invites them. That. Yeah, that invites them to attend one of the talent hub days. So I'm actually the lead on the Northwest Talent Hub, which I'm quite proud that it's based here in Burnley. I think that's, you know, it's just fitting because the work we've done. So anybody from across the Northwest feeds into the Northwest Hub, and the Northeast Hub is based across in West Yorkshire. A lady called Georgia heads that one, and then they just set up one in the Midlands, and a lady called Subia is leading on that, and then I sort of coordinate all the you know, to make sure that we're all being consistent in what we deliver. So that's more of a role that I'm taking on now, is the talent pathway, and eventually the hope is that the creme de la creme of all these hubs will rise to the top and form the national team. And that national team previously used to have fixtures with a team across in Wales, but that's sort of not happened for the last couple of years. But I know that there's work going on behind the scenes to try and sort of generate the interest from teams in Scotland, Ireland, Wales, you know, so that we can kind of have like a little bit of an home nation competition. Because I know that the idea is that we're going to get Commonwealth ready, and so when that invitation comes, that's what we absolutely want to be ready for that.
Oh, that'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? So is it any age group, these talent hubs?
Yeah, so we do juniors and seniors. To be able to play in a senior or an open age match, you need to be 13 plus. Under 16s can all compete against each other. So we do have a junior set up. Got quite good numbers in two of our hubs. We're building on the third hub. But again, it's in its first year, the hubs. So we've populated them. I mean, just this last week gone, there was a multi-hub day where players from all the hubs came together. And I believe there was about 65 players attended, to take part in scoring tasks, so speed related tasks, endurance tasks, scoring tasks like how many catches, how many hits, and all those sorts of things, to give us a matrix of what our top level players are, and then if we do release anybody from the hubs, we can release them with a development plan to say, this is what you're really excelling at, and these are the things that we now need to work on, and the opportunity to go back to local leagues and work on this development plan to then represent the following year to come back into the talent system. So that's the idea of it all.
Wow.
And I think it's working really well. And the idea is that there'll be a hub set up in the southeast, and that eventually we'll get a hub set up in the southwest. So we'd have those 5 regionalised hubs, and then they'd all come together to form the national team.
Yeah, brilliant. What a great idea.
Yeah.
What a brilliant idea. So have you got any memory or anything you think you've missed out, any memories or experiences or funny moments or people that have helped that you can say on film, Janet?
There's plenty, but it's just coming to the forefront. We also won County Community Club of the Year.
Oh, wow.
So that was brilliant. That followed on from our winning the local one.
Yeah.
And we also won Community Club of the Year for the efforts in COVID. So that was recognised and rewarded. So that was brilliant as well. Nicola, who I run the sessions with, has won Coach of the Year at county level. And Joe Baldwin has won the county level for contributions to women's sport.
Oh,
so,
wow, fantastic.
The sort of leading figures in our project have all been recognised. I won contribution to women's sport as well. So, we've all been recognised for the work that we've done. We did one of the interesting things we did have. We was approached by a lecturer, Sue Minton, who's working across, I think it's John Moore's at Liverpool, to do a paper on the project of what is it about Rounders and the women in Burnley? What is it that's been so successful? So Sue came across and interviewed players and teams and coaches and umpires and produced this paper, which was brilliant. It was so insightful. It showed the different communities across Burnley, and some of our communities are in the highest deprived wards in the country, let alone sort of the county. But it just showed that players that came from those wards were playing in the same teams as players coming from, the wards that have got no deprivation, really sort of big properties and well-paid professionals living in those wards, and they're coming together and playing in the same team and forming friendships that, people would say, well, I would never have pictured myself being a friend with that person, but my God, Rounders has brought her into my life, and it's been brilliant. And that's what, that's the thing that sort of keeps you going. It absolutely does. You just see the friendships, you see the teams mixing. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've had some rum ones, real rum ones in playing in our league, but they're characters in our town, and without them, they're part of our history now, and they're some of my favourite people that have played in our leagues, because I just think this is what it's all about, is to provide something for that person who would never, ever have dreamt of coming out and doing this, and 10 years later, they're still doing it. So that's the good thing.
What an amazing project from 2013, and what a great example of from nothing to how you bring it into a local community, but also sports development, how you develop people in the workforce to make it sustainable. It's a fabulous model, and you should be really, really proud, you and obviously everyone that's sort of helped and supported you around it. It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
I know I'm in a lucky position because, although probably 50% of the work I do on Rounders is voluntary, I also work for Burnley Leisure and Culture, who have absolutely embraced Rounders in Burnley. So they've allowed me to take that time to develop this project. They've not said, right, you need to leave that alone now, we need to move on. it's always been all right. Well, Janet's doing the rounders, and it's a really good business model. It doesn't make masses of money, but it does generate an income for a local leisure trust, which is a charitable trust. So all the money that does come through us goes back into other projects within the community. So it's a great model that Rounders is supporting that part of it. And like I say, without Burnley Leisure and Culture allowing me to do this, would we have been as successful? I certainly wouldn't have had the amount of time. So I do credit particularly my boss, who allowed me to sort of run with it and still allows me to run with it. So that's great.
And rightly so, when you look at the outcomes that you're actually achieving, and for the university to come in and do that report just shows how successful you have been. Is there anything we've missed, Janet, that you would like to get in before we round up?
There's probably 101 other things, but no, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Rounders in Burnley is something that I'm extremely proud of. I know the women that play in it love it. We're getting new teams. We have started developing other projects across in Pendle, which is one of our neighbouring boroughs, across in Rottenstall, again, one of our neighbouring boroughs. And the idea is, this is our vision, is that we'll have Northwest Rounders, and that will enable town teams to compete in festivals each year. So teams representing Rosendale and the villages in the valley over there, the teams representing Pendle, because there's a few towns across in Pendle, and then teams from Burnley all coming together and playing in a Northwest festival. But hopefully spread our wings and keep the thing rolling as best we can. One thing we have done, and it's not started yet, but it's certainly going to be here in the future, is that in Burnley we're going to start the Park Rounders programme. And the idea is that local authorities will mark a pitch out for the community, and that pitch is available for the community to use as and when, if it's teams want to come down and have a game, whether it's families on a barbecue in the park wanting to come and have a game. But then on every Saturday or Sunday morning, that we'll link in with Rounders England, hopefully, and do a park play rounders session, where a coach or an umpire will come along and run an organised session for people wanting to get into rounders. And the idea is we'd have a big QR code on a board with the simplified rules there, and we'd have a set of equipment in a location nearby where they can go along and just borrow that equipment, play the rounders, and then return the equipment. So it's going to be free for everyone to get involved in. And then it benefits our leagues, because once they've played 2 or 3 games of rounders, they want to carry on. So then we've got teams in our leagues that can then take these new players in. So that's the next step, Park Rounders.
Wow, phenomenal. Janet, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you, and you should be proud of what you've done.
Extremely.
And you continue to develop it, which is phenomenal. So thank you very much for the interview, and it's been lovely meeting you.
Well, no problem. Thank you.